on social media for the past 4 days, then the following words are going to stand out for you: patriarchy, misogyny, gender-based violence. And today we thought it was important that we interrogate the implications of these stories, especially in the Zimbabwean context. My name is Shengwe Mtetwa, and this is the Girls' Table. I'm not alone today. Today I'm joined by two women that are also passionate about the issue that we're speaking about today. Angie, Melody, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so you can take this opportunity to introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Angeline Ngube. I'm a mother, I'm a psychology student, and I'm a part-time biker.
Thank you.
I'm Melody Wood. I'm a mother, a wife, and I teach at the TCZ Women's Ministry because my passion is women empowerment.
All right, so we're starting off with the story that has everybody all over the world appalled. The story Ega Uyinene Mrechwana. Normal girl, I think, ordinary girl like you and me, going to the post office on a daily errand, and her life ended because of that. So the question that we're trying to interrogate today is, are we safe as women in our society? What do you have to say about Uyinene's story?
Okay, I'll start.
Yeah.
Well, for me personally, the whole issue is really brought right close to home because I actually have a 19-year-old daughter and who happens to be going to a university in South Africa next year. So for me, it was really like a wake-up call because it's so close to home, having to actually contemplate that this could be my child, you know. So definitely when you look at it, it brings that focus on what is it about our society, what is it about our men that is making us feel so unsafe, you know, as women. You know, we didn't choose to be women, but more and more we're finding that we're no longer safe in the spaces that we should feel most safe in.
All right. Uyinene's story is based in South Africa. Is the South African situation different or context different from the Zimbabwean situation?
I don't think so. When that story came to light, I remember because I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I've always felt that it's important that she should be able to at least walk a 3-kilometer diameter from home without us having to say, we pick her up, we drop her off. But as soon as that story really made the headlines, I've started questioning that to say, is she safe?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we live right near her dancing school, and I've been thinking, like, normally she'll just get her kit, run across. But even this time, am I going to allow her to do that? So it's made us stop and question to say, where are they lurking? Is it inside a post office? Is it in a bush just near your house? Is it the security guard that opens the gate at the school where she's attending? It's like we can't trust anyone. And really, that's not making me feel comfortable as a woman, myself, and for my nieces and for my daughters.
All right. So maybe the question that we need to interrogate, what is it that makes men think it's okay to violate young women everywhere? What is it with our society that gives men the go-ahead to violate and harass women the way that they do?
I think it comes from patriarchy, as you first alluded to. It's all about power. At the end of the day, they are in a position of power, you know, when you look at the genders, that they are more powerful in whatever sense, whether it be financially or just being born a boy, as we know in our cultures, in our African cultures. Being born a boy already comes with inbuilt privileges, so to speak. So from that stems all these social issues that we are coming across, and gender-based violence being one of the ones at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm. She introduces culture as one of the main reasons why gender-based violence or sexual harassment is perpetuated. Do you agree? Because especially in the Zimbabwean developed context, culture is something that is revered, like isiko, amasiko ethu. So do you think culture, though, can also be attributed to perpetuating harassment and gender-based violence?
I don't think so.
You don't think
the
so?
culture that I revere and want to perpetuate is that, you know, the men, if it's, even when it's the boy child, when we are raising them, we're raising them to be a man, a provider, someone to look up to, so that your sisters, you know, even you find that's why historically in things like estate management, that when the father would pass on, he would say, even though the boy was small, he must look after his mother, his sisters, and it was something. I know now we want to call it black tax, all sorts of burdens, but men were raised to be leaders, providers. So if you're a leader and a provider, how then do you become this binya that we're seeing on the street?
So where do you
So
think it's coming
culture.
from?
Culture did not enforce that in. I think it's a mental issue. I really think that those people need to have an asylum where they're locked up and someone deals with them.
But if I can jump in
Yeah.
there, because if you say it's a mental thing, then what is it? Is it something in the water? What is it that there has to be a common thread that links everybody to behave that way? It is culture in a sense, because culture, remember, it's about how people are interpreting it. Why was this culture brought about in the first place? There must have been a reason to why it. Culture comes if it serves a purpose, comes about when it serves a certain function in a society. And obviously with this, it serves that function to keep them at the top. I know I may come across as a man basher or something, but that is the truth, and that is what patriarchy is about. It's about keeping our men at the top. And, you know, there really isn't a space for women up there, you know, and it serves their purpose well for it to be that way. So it trickles down to everything else. Yes, it may not be the initial idea that, oh, we must be free to sexually harass and abuse women. But at the end of the day, everybody's an individual, and how you are brought up along the tenets of that culture in your society or in your family is how it's interpreted. And obviously, somewhere, somehow, it's being interpreted as them feeling that they have the right to do this.
Yeah, but it's not every single man who's doing it.
No, it's
So we
not.
don't
Wait,
punish
Wait,
all the men with
now
body
that you
fashion.
say that, how do you interact with the hashtag all men are trash? You know
Yes,
the
I
all
know
men
that
are,
hashtag.
yes. How do you relate with that sentiment?
I don't.
You don't like it.
I don't.
You
I have a son, an amazing son. I have an amazing husband.
Yeah.
I have brothers. I don't believe that all men are trash. That's why I'm saying that I think it's a mental issue, because it's not every single guy that's going out there. Because really, I mean, this young lady that we're talking about today, yes, because of social media and because that story managed to sort of hit the headlines and make, I think, and I'm not saying it only happened to her, but statistically, if you look at like the justice system, even in our country here, if they, I think other than stealing cattle, rape must be the most detrimental sentence you may get. So the justice system has come to the party. It's not something that they encourage, but still it happens. But not every single man that's out there is out to attack us. So that's what I want to put out there to say, guys, we're not bashing you. We're just saying those few that are doing it, what is causing it? Not to say because of patriarchy. Like I'm saying, I understand that patriarchy was put in place to sort of oppress women. But like I'm saying, in the cultural setting, that's what I'm saying, on the cultural side, I've always appreciated that when men are taught to provide and everything, they become leaders. We have a problem again now with single-headed households because we're not empowering these men for their real responsibilities.
All right. She speaks about not empowering men, and she speaks about how not all of them, we can't accuse all of them of this behavior. It reminds me of a tweet which says, Zim men deserve to be appreciated. We may have some bad apples, but I certainly don't move around Zimbabwe in fear of being raped or killed at every corner. What do you have to say about that?
Well, you know, she's probably lucky that she doesn't move around in fear. I'm not saying that I move around in fear per se, but I think it comes with the circumstances. And just coming back to the whole all men are trash thing, it's not to say we're saying every single man is actually doing this, is actually out there raping or whatever. But what we need to interrogate as well is, are the ones, the so-called good men, are they doing everything in their power to stop? We look at instances where men are at a pub and the group of men Friday night having a chat or whatever, and somebody says a misogynistic joke or says something that is demeaning to a woman or a friend that he knows. What is the reaction of these other men? Are they calling him out to say, you know what, man, this is wrong? This is what we're talking about. So the whole all men are trash is not about the focus on the men who are actually doing these deeds, but we're talking about all the other men. What is it that you're doing? Because these are your fellow males, you know, these are your friends, your brothers. What are you doing to try and stop them? Are you speaking out? Because when you talk of gender-based violence, it's synonymous with women. You know, it's about women. Then coming back to this lady, whilst I appreciate, it's a good thing that, you know, she has men in her life that she feels that are good. And there are some good men, right? But the idea is, what are those good men doing, you know? I've heard this quote in many different ways from Martin Luther King. I've had it, I believe, from Einstein is supposed to have said something along the line of saying, you know, the problem in society, well, basically, I'm paraphrasing, it's when good men do nothing. It's not about the evil that's done, but it's about the ones that say we are good, do nothing. That's where the main crux, I think, is. Because for these things to be looked at or to be frowned upon, and for somebody to stop doing something bad, they need to actually know that, you know what, nobody will like, I will be alone, I will be exposed, you know, people will definitely have a say against it, and it's not a good feeling. This is how society then functions to put the checks and balances in place. So if you have somebody who's able to do something wrong and not be called to account, that makes them comfortable. That's why you get them doing it again and again. Because one, they're doing it in the cover of darkness or wherever, in a secluded place. And then at the same time, there are some people that have seen these red flags in this person, and they don't say anything. So that's where we need our good men coming in.
You speak about not saying anything. A lot of women have brought about the sentiment that, in the comparison between Zimbabwe and South Africa, the reason why it seems like Zimbabwe doesn't have a lot of cases of femicide or gender-based violence is because a lot of these issues are swept under the rug. A lot of these men are protected, whether it's religious institutions, whether it's family culture. Umalume, if he does anything wrong, keep quiet. And then an article was released recently about a lawyer in the UK. And the way the article was worded, even as it spoke about gender-based violence, was in a way to shield and protect that man. A brilliant young Zimbabwean man has allegedly or is purported to do this. So don't you think that's the problem, especially in the Zimbabwean context, where a lot of these issues are romanticized or sugar-coated such that they seemingly don't have the impact that it has, like in countries like South Africa?
Okay. Well, that article, because I guess the news lines we got it from us, our local ones, so would assume it's a fellow Zimbabwean not wanting to make his fellow men look like a, you know. But generally, I've never seen a rape article written like that. So that also, I was just like, but those are not like mainline newspapers. Maybe the quality of journalism is questionable. I can't comment on that. But I do appreciate that in the local sense, definitely in culturally, like we did say that you find that people are more likely to be raped within their home in this country than just randomly on the street. But when it then happens within the home, it becomes a family issue. And when the family issue comes, it's the very same women. Our nieces had this tragedy happen to her. We, the tetes, come and say, we can't have Bamkuru arrested because Bamkuru is the breadwinner, because Bamkuru is the one who looks after everyone. You remember, we've raised them to be providers and leaders. So we, the same women, are the ones who protect. Because someone should step up and report. Because this child who's been abused could be 6, 8. He really cannot rock up at a police station and say this happened. There needs to be a strong woman who walks with that child. But we, the women in this country, I think either lack the courage or again, we have been socialized in such a way that we protect these people.
When we come back from a short break, we're going to interrogate the role that women play in perpetuating gender-based violence. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Girls' Table. We continue to interrogate issues surrounding gender-based violence and sexual harassment, especially in our locality. Now, before we took a break, I wanted us to look at the role that women play in terms of perpetuating gender-based violence and sexual harassment. But before we get there, I've heard a lot of sentiments that women create a conducive environment for rape and sexual harassment. One, in the way that they dress, two, in the way that in the places that they hang around. Like or don't wear this or don't wear that. What do you have to say about that?
Well, again, you've got to look at our culture, particularly Africans, in that traditionally our culture has always put the woman's space being in the kitchen or in the home, so this is where it stems from, because we already have been predetermined that we are the maternal beings, we should look after the children, we should be in the home. We should stay in the home. The man is the one who is allowed to go out there and work and provide and, take a breather and meet friends and that sort of thing. So what has happened now with the opening up of the world becoming a global village, is that our younger generations don't subscribe to that. They want to be out there, they are working, obviously, so they also want to be out there meeting friends and all that. But then you've got this conflict with our culture that says, no, but you should be in the home. But I'm a working girl, I am somebody who has a life aside from being in the home, So you then get these narratives that then say, oh, whatever you're wearing, if you're wearing something a little too short, it's inappropriate. Where you are having a drink, it's inappropriate. So in a sense, that does sort of, it's now being used as an excuse to say, oh, well, that's why you get men catcalling at you as you walk by, or, men feel that they have the right because you've put yourself in that space.
But is that the correct way to approach
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah.
What do you have to say? Especially looking at the issue of dressing. A friend of mine tweeted and said these old women called her out for wearing a skirt with a slit that showed the back of her thigh. And we're like, what does that have anything to do with anything? What do you have to say?
No, I found that really surprising, but we'd have to understand where these old women that she's mentioning are coming from. Are they her aunts? Are they her moms? I wouldn't know, because some families are very strict, and it doesn't matter where they are. In their context, there's a certain way of dressing, but because now children are exposed to social media, the Instagram pictures, they may forget how their particular, maybe at your mom's house you could dress like that, but you go across town to your cousin's house and everything has changed. And I found that even with religion, we once took a holiday to Zanzibar, and my daughter at that time was 11, and she wore like little shorts, which was perfectly fine for the day because it was warm and everything. And a group of old men actually called my husband and questioned her dressing. And I was totally shook because, but then I realized that one, Zanzibar, Tanzania, Muslim culture, but we took Zanzibar as a holiday resort. But in that holiday resort, there are people who live there and they own their culture and their religion. So we did not argue with them. We just, luckily I had a sari, but I felt that it's their country, I couldn't, but I really felt that it was out of place because she was a little girl. But I've seen that even happening here, that you go and catch your lift, you think you're dressed for going to town, and suddenly it becomes a big issue. When we see the pictures, I'm always thinking, what's wrong with that girl? She looks perfectly normal. So I don't really think it's anyone's place. If someone is comfortable in their skin and they want to wear what they want to wear, it should be. And especially in this country where, I can't comment on Zanzibar because I don't know their laws, but I know in Zimbabwe that we don't have anything that hinders on that right for human beings, both male and female.
So would you advise young women to dress more appropriately so they avoid risking themselves?
What is appropriate today or is not appropriate tomorrow? We want young women to grow up free in their country, free to be who they are. What you may find short Klengwe, someone else doesn't find it short. So I really don't understand when I'm standing there saying to a young girl, this is appropriate, it's appropriate to me. But as soon as she walks down the road, minding you may not think it's appropriate. So what is the point of supposed to do change between bus stops? So we really need just to let children, especially young girls, be who they want to be. And because our law allows it, it's a free country. This is why we are still here. It's a free country.
Do you think enough is being done to, I don't know whether this is possible, to regulate the behavior of those that chastise the way women dress? Because a lot of the times we've seen women's clothes being ripped off wherever, and they're chanting and they're taking videos and so forth. Do you think there's anything that can be done to regulate that kind of behavior so that women can feel safe in whatever they're wearing?
Okay. Well, absolutely. I think there's a lot that can be done, and Zimbabwe is definitely not doing anywhere near enough, you know. We gotta, if you look at our even our laws, not that I'm very well versed with the law, but it's rather vague on what exactly is criminal in terms of your sexual harassment and things like that. So you find that it leaves that loophole for people to basically do what they want, in terms of sexual harassment, what you are wearing, and you go to areas like Egodini, where there are touts, your ET drivers, and you get harassed. For starters, I think we need more of a police presence in areas like that. We see our government, placing police when there's demonstrations and things like that to protect us as a nation. We also need to see that protection more in those hotspots, because we know there are areas where, every girl child knows instinctively that if I'm going to be going at this place, I better not wear these shorts. Maybe I should. So we need, as a society, to try and regulate that. But over and above that, I think we need to be self-regulatory as human beings. Everybody has to take it upon themselves to question themselves that, okay, if this was my sister, if this was my daughter, if this was my mom, is this the behavior that I would want them to experience? I think if we start from that point, and that also our government can come in